It's September 1905, and Japan has just gotten off the high of winning the Russo-Japanese War. But something doesn't seem right. The people of Japan don't seem happy nor proud over their victory, but angry. September 5th, 1905, witnessed one of the biggest riots Japan had ever seen up to that point. The Hibiya Incendiary Incident. The people of Japan believed in themselves deserving more of a political presence in the voting process after all the sacrifices they have made for their country. The Hibiya Incendiary Incident and the many other riots seen up to that point marked a change in how people fought for their rights and what they believed in, and this change is what shaped and forged the Taisho democracy. Whilst the Taisho democracy officially started in 1912, the events that occurred were already foreseen to come. Prior to the Taisho era and the Taisho democracy, the Meiji Restoration occurred, establishing the attempt at political unity and widespread literary success through the promotion of universal education and the spread of ideas to the partisan press, enabling political movements through the creation of a literary populace. The Meiji Restoration, during its runtime, rapidly helped Japan industrialize by adopting Western beliefs and practices, but also established Japan's first two main modern parties, the Gyuto and the Kaishinto. After a political crisis in 1881, leading to the government promising a constitution before 1890, the Meiji Constitution was proclaimed on February 11th, 1889, granting supreme sovereignty to the emperor while establishing a House of Representatives as a part of the imperial diet. These changes served as a catalyst and foundation for the events yet to come. In 1912, during the start of the Taisho democracy, the Yuaikai, or the Friendly Society founded by Suzuki Bunji, was formed. Initially a medium-sized organization focused on mutual aid and education, but the organization grew rapidly. It established locals in the industrial neighborhoods of Japan's cities like Tokyo, attracting many skilled workers such as men in the heavy industry or women in the textile industry, under the promise that workers would be recognized, respected, and treated as human. The Yuaikai published magazines, hosted large rallies, and held team meetings, offering a sense of community for workers who felt like they had lost their way. Labor disputes, although already being common in the workplace, were amplified by the Yuaikai, as it allowed many more workers to grow and articulate better treatment for themselves, such as demanding higher wages, better working conditions, and greater respect in the social hierarchy. Whilst workers were out fighting for their rights in the streets and in the workplace, political parties worked to gain power from within the Diet. The Seiyukai, a new party made in the 1900s, pursued a strategy of compromise and tactical alliance with the Genro to expand their influence and, through this, establish themselves as the dominant party in the Diet. This large power shift led to the Taisho political crisis of 1912, which was triggered when the army brought down a Seiyukai-supported Saionji Kinmochi cabinet due to its refusal to supply a war minister, leading to the Genro then appointing Katsuro Taro as prime minister, provoking widespread backlash from the people of Japan. The events of this situation inspired the movement for constitutional government, led by many journalists and opposition politicians. The pressure from Japan's people caused Katsuro to make his own party, which then swiftly failed, but demonstrated the power of the people of Japan. At the beginning of World War I, Japan entered the war against Germany using the Anglo-Japanese alliance as justification for joining. Later on during the war, the 1917 October Revolution occurred in Russia, leading to rice merchants and landlords anticipating the dispatch of troops into Siberia. This belief began rice speculation and hoarding, causing prices to skyrocket quickly, making rice unaffordable for most people. This event eventually led to one of the biggest riots in history, the Rice Riots, Riots broke out in Toyama in July 1918 and spread quickly amongst communities in Toyama Bay. Newspapers gave out national recognition to the riots the following month, leading the riots to spread and erupt across the entire country. This amount of backlash forced the government of Japan and the Genro to appoint Hara Takashi as the first true Prime Party minister, after Hisaichi Terauchi resigned after the rice riots calmed down. After the conclusion of World War I, on November 11, 1918, Japan, under Hara Takashi of the Seiyukai, developed its first true party cabinet, leading Japan to its first large shift towards a democratic system. This system continued to develop at a rapid pace until 1921, when Hara Takashi was assassinated. This led to the formation of a coalition cabinet, known as the Three-Faction Cabinet, made of the Kinseikai, Seiyukai, and the Kakushin Kurabu. During the creation of this cabinet, people of Japan started to rise once again, as the right and price to vote was brought up. Universal manhood suffrage, a movement originated heavily in 1911 after the Universal Manhood Suffrage Act was passed in the House of Representatives, started to gain influence again after the rice riots of 1918. Originally faced with powerful opposition forces, and due to it being associated with socialism stalling the movement, the Universal Manhood Suffrage movement argued that the existing system based on tax qualifications was unfair and unjust, and that all men who contributed to the nation as workers, soldiers, medics, etc., deserved the right to vote. The movement included the participation of over 60 different groups, including worker groups, student groups, and different journalists, all protesting for the right to vote. These protests eventually led to the Kinseikai adopting the movement as its platform, and in 1925, the coalition government led by Kato Takaki of the Kinseikai passed the General Election Law, which abolished all tax qualifications and granted voting rights to all men 25 years of age or older, increasing the electorate from 3 million to over 12 million. During the same Diet session, the Peace Preservation Law was also passed to avoid communist ideals. Around this same time, the Uaikai was organized into a more militant federation called the Sotomen. New radical unions also started spreading around industrial neighborhoods in cities like Tokyo. Under these unions, workers started going on longer and more organized strikes based on demanding better wages, formal severance pay systems, the end of discriminatory treatment, and recognition of their unions. At this time, many other movements started to pop up again, like the student movement or the women's movement, with members like Hiratsuka Raiko and Ichikawa Fuse leading the push for greater rights, eventually leading to the founding of the Women's Suffrage League. This sparks the government to make changes to the Peace Police Law in 1922 to allow women to attend political meetings. Later on, in 1928, Japan had the first general election under universal suffrage, with the communist-aligned left-wing party demonstrating a new political presence. Due to the new communist presence, the Great Kanto earthquake, and Japan's Great Depression, the Taisho democracy eventually fell to a militaristic presence in 1932. Although the Taisho democracy was seen as a failure, it strengthened the voice of the people of Japan.